Hello everyone, welcome to my channel and welcome to my book haul video. Before we get started, my name is Emily and I just want to say thank you so much for watching today's video. It means so much. We are doing a book haul today because about 2 weeks ago, I got the very sudden and intense urge to go book shopping, and you guys know how that is. I just had to do it. So I have a bunch of books here. I think I have about 20 books. I ordered most of them from thriftbooks, which if you don't know, thriftbooks is the largest online secondhand bookstore, and they have such a large selection and you can choose the condition that the book is in, and that kind of affects the price. So if you're looking for like a new online website to go book shopping with and you don't want to break the bank, I would definitely recommend checking out thriftbooks because they have such a huge selection for a great price. And you can also get like rewards and stuff for purchasing books from thriftbooks. So I think I had a few free books for this haul, so that's why I wanted to order from thriftbooks. And also you're just giving a secondhand book a new home. Also, this isn't sponsored at all. I only have like 85 subscribers. I just really love thriftbooks, and I think you will too if you've never shopped from thriftbooks before. So most of the books are from thriftbooks. I have a few that I bought last night at Greenpoint Books in Brooklyn, and then I have one that I picked up at a used bookstore that I was at over the weekend when I was traveling. So I'll share all of those books. So we will start with my thriftbooks haul. When you order from thriftbooks, sometimes they ship in like multiple containers or boxes just depending on which warehouse the books are at and stuff. So I have one package here that has about 4 books in it. So let's open this one up and see what came in this package. So the first book here is A River Enchanted by Rebecca Ross. I actually have read A River Enchanted already, but I never read the second one called A Fire Endless. And I love Rebecca Ross. Divine Rivals is one of my favorite books of all time. So I did really like A River Enchanted and I wanted to have a hard copy for my shelves. That's why I ordered A River Enchanted. This one quality isn't great. Like the spine has a little bit of bending on it, but you know, that's okay. I've already read this one, so I'm just happy to have a copy of it for my shelves. So first book for the book haul, A River Enchanted. Next up, I have A Promise of Fire by Amanda Bouchet, or Bouchette. I'm not sure exactly how to say that, but I've really been craving a long fantasy series that I can just dive into and get completely immersed in it. I feel like I haven't read a long fantasy series since I've read Throne of Glass, and I've just been really itching to get back into a fantasy series. I'm currently reading Daughter of No Worlds, so that is one of my options, so I hope I really like that one. But this one I haven't heard much about, but it came up on a list that I searched because I was just curious, and I googled like best completed fantasy romance series, and this one came up. This one is about a woman who is currently disguising herself and traveling with a circus, and she is trying to like avoid, you know, her destiny and that kind of stuff. But then the main character meets our other main character and they kind of, you know, get into this like enemies to lovers thing. The final line on the back of this says, "But can he ever hope to prove to his once captive that he wants her there by his side as his equal, his companion, and maybe someday his queen?" This one I haven't heard much about, but it was on this list that I found. So hopefully this one ends up being good. I'm kind of excited about it. Like I said, I just really want to read a long fantasy series and get totally immersed in that world. So if you've read this one, let me know. All right, next up, I have 2 Annabelle Monaghan books. These ones I wanted to add to my summer TBR, so I ordered them from thriftbooks. First is Summer Romance, and the next one is Same Time Next Summer. I've heard amazing things about Annabelle Monaghan's writing, and I haven't read a book by her before, but I'm looking at this one right now, and on the back, Abby Jimenez did a little blurb, so I feel like that is a good sign. And Ellen Hilderbrand did the blurb on the back of Same Time Next Summer, and I also love Ellen Hilderbrand's writing, and I love reading her books over the summer. So I have very high expectations for these 2 books. I'm definitely going to save these ones for the summer because they literally say summer on the cover, and I feel like I need to match the book to the season. But based on what I know about Annabelle Monaghan's writing, this is kind of like a literary fiction focused women's fiction type of romance. So it covers some topics more like grief and finding yourself again after a divorce and things like that. They're romance books, but like they're a little bit more like a literary fiction, I think. So 2 Annabelle Monaghan books adding to the summer TBR. So that is package 1 from thriftbooks, and I'm going to open up the second box now. This one is much bigger, so let's see what came in this one. I don't even remember what I ordered really. Okay. All right, here is another one that I ordered because I wanted to add it to my summer TBR, and that is The Paradise Problem by Christina Lauren. This is about... So this is like a fake dating, fake marriage, marriage of convenience type of romance. And I've heard that the main character in this one is like hysterical, and people were like laughing out loud when they were reading this one. So I have high hopes for The Paradise Problem, but this one definitely has to be saved for the summer. I mean, look at this cover. This is screaming summer. So I will be saving this one for the beach over the summer. Okay, next up from the Thrift Books haul is The Rose Bargain by Sasha Payton Smith. This one I've heard is just fantasy romance at its best. I've heard that there's yearning. I've heard that it's like a Regency-esque type of vibe. And I think this is also an arranged marriage trope. Oh, no, okay. So this one is, like I said, a Regency type of trope, but the main character competes in a competition to marry the Queen's Fae son. Very interesting. I feel like there's something about the Regency time period when books take place in that time period that just screams spring to me. So like this cover just feels very spring to me. The Regency vibes in general feel like springtime. I think that's because Bridgerton usually comes out in the spring, and that's when I first watched the Bridgerton series on Netflix. That is The Rose Bargain, and that also leads me into two other Regency era books. So Rose Bargain is on the May TBR, and that leads me into two other Regency era fantasy romances, but these are more of like a cozy fantasy romance. So the first one is A Rivalry of Hearts by Tassanja Odette, and then the second book in this little series is My Feral Romance. And I saw these two books on a reel on Instagram, and the person who made that reel said that they are the best books for yearning that she's ever read. I was like, I'm immediately sold. So I ordered these two, and these books are actually brand new. So sometimes from Thrift Books, you can get brand new books, which is nice. But anyway, so these are essentially like cozy romance books. The main character in one is a romance author, and the main character in the other one is a painter. They're a little bit more like cozy, and I've heard these are very rom-com-esque, but with the fantasy tropes and things like that that we know and love. So I feel like if you are like a rom-com lover and you're looking to read a like light fantasy book, these are really good options. I will come back with the review on these ones because like I said, Regency means spring to me, so I definitely want to read these ones over the next few weeks. Next up from Thrift Books, I have A Fire Endless by Rebecca Ross. So this goes back to what I mentioned. I think it was the first book that I pulled out, which is the second book in that, I think it's called The Elements of Cadence. Yeah, The Elements of Cadence duology. So this one I will read soon because like I said, I've read A River Enchanted before, but I haven't read this one before. So this is the sequel to that first one. And this fantasy world is actually one of the most beautiful and enchanting worlds that I've ever read about. The land within these books is like alive with magic, and it's kind of intrinsically interwoven with the characters and the characters' lives. So that's just a really like beautiful aspect of these books, and I'm excited to get back into it. All right, so that is my third to last book from Thrift Books, so putting that into my pile. I also got another fantasy book series from Thrift Books. So I got Rhapsodic by Laura Thalassa. So like I said, I'm just really looking to be immersed in a fantasy series, and I've heard good things about both of these series. So the first one, like I said, was I think A Promise of Fire, and then we have Rhapsodic here. So I'll give both of these a try and see what I think about them. Let me know if you think that there's one that I should start first. I'm not sure if I should do Rhapsodic first or if I should do A Promise of Fire first. So let me know if you have any thoughts on that because I'm not going to be able to decide. So yeah. All right. One more book from Thrift Books, and that is The Winners by Frederick Bachman. I also had no idea how thick this one is compared to the first two books in this trilogy. This is a trilogy that follows a small hockey town in kind of like a Scandinavian country, and something happens in the first book that kind of alters all of the characters' lives who live in this small town, and they also all are heavily invested in the hockey team in this town. So I did only read the first book in this trilogy, but I wanted to pick up the third one just so I have it when I finish the second one finally. If you haven't read a book by Frederick Bachman before, I would definitely recommend checking it out. His writing is like a little interesting compared to some other authors. He makes a lot of observations about characters and the worlds around him as he's going through this story, and I feel like they're very intuitive, and I really like reading his thoughts, and I think he writes very different perspectives very well. So yeah, like I said, this one is about a small hockey town. The whole town is super invested in this hockey team, and then things kind of spiral and people are grappling with what happened in the first book. That is all of the books from Thrift Books for a grand total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 books from Thrift Books. I thought I got a few more, but maybe they're still on the way. Anyway, so that's Thrift Books, and I have a few more books to show you. Okay, next up, over the weekend I was in Washington, D.C., and there's a long story about why I was in Georgetown. But I was in Georgetown. We had to get a tuxedo last minute for a wedding we were going to. And right next door to the tuxedo place was a used bookstore. So while my fiance was getting fitted for his tuxedo, I walked next door. Sometimes I feel like used bookstores are hit or miss. And like sometimes they have a huge selection and other times they don't. And this one didn't have a huge selection. But coincidentally, the night before we left to go to DC, my fiance and I started the TV show Dark Matter on Apple TV. We were only 2 episodes in and I was totally hooked. It's basically a science fiction about this man who wakes up. His whole world has changed and he doesn't really know what's going on. And I was like hooked on this show immediately. And this was on a top shelf in the used bookstore. So I grabbed it. It was only $4 and it felt like it was meant to be because it was right there. So I think we're going to pause the TV show while I read this book. And then once I'm done with the book, we'll finish watching the TV show. So that is Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. It's a science fiction. So a little bit out of my normal genre, but I was really interested in the TV show. So I hope I really like this one. Okay, and then last but not least, I have the 2 books that I bought at a bookstore in Brooklyn called Greenlight Books. And that first one is obviously Great Big Beautiful Life. I was at this bookstore for a midnight release party, so I picked up the new Emily Henry there, or it came with the ticket for the midnight release. So this one was highly anticipated this year. I'm excited to read this one. I don't fully know what this one is about because normally with authors like Emily Henry or Abby Jimenez, I don't even read the synopsis and I kind of just go in blind and I like to be surprised. So I believe this one's about 2 journalists who are both competing to write a biography for like a retired socialite, but she's being very cagey with like what information she's giving each of them. They're kind of like competing and trying to get the information from each other throughout the course of this book. And I saw on Instagram that if you wanted to read one of her books that would make you cry, to pick this one. So I'm a little nervous to get started because I don't know, this one might be very emotional. Emily Henry herself said that this one will make you cry. So we'll see what happens with that. And then last but certainly not least, I bought a love song for Ricky Wilde. This was by the counter at the midnight release last night, and there was like a list of books that Emily Henry herself had recommended, and this was one of them. And the cashier said that this is like adult Twilight. So I said, say less, and I bought it. I am very excited to read this one. I've never read a book by Tia Williams, but she also wrote 7 Days in June, and I know that a lot of people like that one. This one apparently is a bit different from 7 Days in June, according to the cashier last night, but it's adult Twilight. On the back, it says that she meets, or the main character moves and ends up meeting a handsome stranger, or a mysterious stranger who knocks her world off balance in the most magical of ways. And it also says that it's a modern fairy tale. So I don't know, I'm really excited for this one. I might push this up on the TBR and start it soon. It just sounds so unique and interesting, and I mean, adult Twilight? Yes. Okay, and that is all of the books for my book haul today. Let's see if I can pick them all up without knocking them all over. Oh no. Okay. These are all of the books from today's book haul. Let me know if there's any books that I should start with and read first. I feel like I have so many good options here and it's going to be so hard to pick. Let me know if you read any of these and you think I should read them first. Let me know if you're going to add any of these to your TBR. That's all from me for today. Thank you again for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please do all of those classic YouTube things like comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, and bye for now.